everybody. This is Gen X Rants. I'm your host, David. We're here again for another episode of Gen X Rants, and I'm here to talk today about Blue. It says Parks and Rec. So what are we talking about? Well, we're not talking about any sort of recreation, so we're going to talk about the parks, which happen to be tonight about Orlando, Florida's Epic Universe. And there's been a slight couple updates going on in Epic Universe. Unfortunately, a couple weeks ago, there was a tragic life that passed away, we'll just put it that way, on Stardust Racers, and there's been an investigation since then. But let's go through some news about where that's at and what's going on with that ride. So thanks to News 6, powered by QuickOrlando.com. The author of this article is Gerald Baker, and we're going to go through that. So let's get me and this article going. Yeah, okay, I'm going to shrink myself a little bit so we can see the article better. So what had happened is presently Stardust Racers has reopened today on Saturday, October 4th, and there's new safety guidelines after the guest passing away, and you can see that on the screen, what it really was, and there's some changes that have happened here due to that passing, unfortunately. So, Universal Orlando reopened Stardust Racers, as I said, today, and as of 7 p.m., Universal's app showed the wait time being 150 minutes, so it is going strong, and it's quite a wait. And it's been closed since September 17th, when 32-year-old Kevin Rodriguez Zavala passed on at hospital after being unresponsive in his restraint. So let's go through that. A medical examiner determined that Rodriguez suffered multiple blunt impact injuries, as well as that his death was considered and is still, as far as I'm aware, an accident. Further, an incident report obtained by News 6, which is this website, states Rodriguez Zavala had a pre-existing spinal injury, though it's unclear whether that contributed. So that's been the story with that, just to pause there, for the last 2 weeks, and there's been no updates on that. However, in a letter to staff, Universal Orlando Resort President Karen Irwin wrote that Stardust Racers was functioning as intended prior to Rodriguez's passing, reiterating the point in a follow-up letter she sent out Friday to announce the ride's reopening, which was yesterday. Even before the death, the Epic Universe Safety and Accessibility Guide had stated Stardust Racers is not allowed for guests with back, neck, and similar physical conditions. I think that's pretty self-evident. I don't know why you would go on a ride if you did have those issues, because you're just playing with fire when you do. So the latest safety and accessibility guides dated October 4th contain an updated symbol legend for all attractions. So because of what happened on Stardust Racers, it's poured out onto other roller coasters and rides. So more rider requirements for attractions, including Stardust Racers, and new language covering such topic as guest using wheelchairs, which he was in one. So guests who review the Stardust Racers section of the latest Epic Universe Safety Guide will see red circle with a diagonal line crossing. So don't do this, right? If you have this, don't go on. This symbol means the guest should not board an attraction if they are weakened, they have weakened bones or muscles. And there's quite a few ailments actually out there that have that. If they have the inability to, now listen carefully, independently maintain an upright position. So you have to be able to sit. So theoretically, if you had a spinal injury and you cannot sit up straight and hold your weight, you should not be going on this ride. Or if they have any other conditions which may aggravate. So if you know that, yeah, I was in a work-related accident, let's say, and I've got probably some C damage on my spine, you should not be going on this ride, because the jostling of a roller coaster, which has, G-forces, acceleration, and all of those things can aggravate that condition. So you can kind of see the charts there, attraction information, symbol descriptions. You got metal detectors. So don't be bringing weapons as usual. Attraction symbol designation. So you've got do not ride if you have a history of heart conditions, which is pretty normal, and abnormal blood pressure, people with high blood pressure, which can constrict the heart. You're getting a lot of G-forces on your chest and around your body, so you don't want to be doing that. Do not ride if you have back, neck, or similar physical conditions. I already thought that was common sense, but common sense isn't always common, right? Do not ride if you have unhealed surgery or surgery or fractures. So if you have a broken leg or you just had some surgeries where you should not be riding, the doctor should be warning you about that stuff, but you don't want your sutures, for example, to open up due to the G-forces. Pressing of anything on it, you could bleed, and that would be not good. Do not ride if you have weakened bones, so that's a new one, muscles. Do not ride if you have the inability to independently maintain upright positions. Let's zoom in a little more with that. So that's the sitting up, as we said. Do not ride if you have other conditions. Do not ride if you're an expectant mother, which is pretty common sense. That's been around for decades. Do not ride if you are susceptible to motion sickness or dizzy. You don't want to be throwing up or passing out on the ride. Do not ride if you're fear of heights. I have a slight fear of heights. Good example is we rode a roller coaster in Toronto, just outside of Toronto. It's the I can't remember the name, but it was at big park there, and it went really high. It didn't have I don't mind roller coasters if they have the chest bars. Those I'm much more comfortable, and usually a lap bar along with that. I do not like any kind of roller coaster that has only a lap bar, and actually that's what I believe. I'm not 100% certain that that's what is Stardust racers only have the lap bar and not the shoulder harness. Shoulder harness will keep you nice and tight, right? So and I don't mind that so much. Even if I don't like the heights, it doesn't bother me as much. I feel safer. Do not ride if you have medical sensitivity to strobe effects, when all the effects and stuff, especially at night. Do not ride if you have medical sensitivity to fog effects. So it's a lot of general common sense warnings. Do not ride if you have claustrophobia. So the same symbols now appear for Constellation Carousel. So they plug this on more rides. Dragon Racers Rally, Fear Drill, Hiccup Swing Gliders, Harry Potter and the Battle of Ministry, Curse of the Werewolf, Monsters Unchained, The Frankenstein Experiment, Mario Kart, Browsers, A Challenge, Minecart Madness, and even Yoshi's Adventure. Additionally, the same symbols appear in the same context in the Safety and Accessibility Guide for Universal Studios Florida and the Islands of Adventure, which was also updated October 4th. So they've slapped this warning on pretty much anything that moves practically. Not all, but a lot of their rides in Epic Universe and other places. In the past, both it and the version of the stethoscope in the center were used interchangeably to identify attractions unsuitable for guests with unhealed or recent surgeries. I don't know why you would be honestly riding a roller coaster if you just had surgery, but that's between you and the good Lord above. Now, though only the stethoscope refers to the surgery clause, while the empty red circle with a line crossing bears the same meaning, it doesn't. Okay, so et cetera, et cetera. So these are kind of the things, symbol descriptions. And, now it says guests must transfer to a standard wheelchair. But now, guests may remain in the standard wheelchairs. Please note this does not apply to not ECDs. Guests may remain, and then, so they've kind of changed a few of these things. So in the guests using wheelchair section of the latest version of Epic Universe Safety and Accessibility Guide, an updated line in the second paragraph states that those capable of transferring themselves to attraction seating will be allowed to do so at most attractions, so not all, and invites readers to review a new list of attractions which require guests to walk independently. So what had happened, and this is hearsay, I'm not 100% sure, they're still investigating, supposedly that this gentleman had help from his girlfriend to get into the ride. Some say that one of the guest services people had helped him, but that's a super big no-no. Most people don't believe that happened that way, because as a Universal and any park, you're not allowed to, because then you become liable, right? So if you accidentally do not put them in correctly and they get injured, then you're liable as not only an employee, but the park is liable. So that's most likely not what happened, but there's definitely people that say that the girlfriend helped him in, so he could not independently help himself. And that's just Hearsay, not 100% sure. The investigation's still ongoing, so don't sue me. That list contains 3 rides. So Dragon Racers Rally, Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experience, and the Stardust Races. Those 3 rides had previously appeared in list of attractions designed to accommodate those transferring from their wheelchair to the ride vehicle, but no longer. So what does that mean? The guest using wheelchair section of the Safety and Accessibility Guide for Universal Studios Florida and Islands of Adventure was also updated the same kind of list effective Saturday, stating guests using mobility devices must be able to walk independently before boarding Jurassic World Velocicoaster, Harry Potter, Forbidden Journey, or Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventures, motorbike only. A lot of those people actually have to, I think, go into the sidecar depending on the situation, from what I recall, but that's just off the top of my head there. So returning to Stardust Racer section of Epic Universe's safety guide, the updated version has added and removed the following language. So it added, guests using mobility devices must be able to walk independently. And they removed, you must be able to take a small step into the ride vehicle compartment either independently or with assistance from a companion. So they've taken that clause out where you could get help or, take a short step. Basically, you have to be able to do it. You have to be able to jump into that vehicle on your own accord. And that puts the onus on the person. It should always be the onus of the person going on the ride, but the United States is a funny place that likes to sue people a lot, which is what's going on. So they got to lawyer the family to sue. Now, what I'm about to say is completely, in my opinion, it is not based on facts. It is just a thought and my opinion. I personally am suspicious of what happened here. Personally, that doesn't mean that anything malicious happened. That doesn't mean anything. I just find it odd and convenient that these steps had happened, that this person being what had happened to them happened. The person knew that they had a severe spinal cord situation, and yet they chose to ride the ride anyways. So they kind of put the risk on themselves. But that's my opinion. Whatever. So other aspects of the Stardust Racer section remain the same, such as rider requirements that guests must be able to independently maintain the upright position. So that's kind of always been the thing, so that you don't, jostle forward and fall, because again, there's no shoulder harness. That might change down the road, but at the present there isn't. It's just the lap belt or the lap restraint. And therefore, you have, if you get jostled a bit with those G-forces, you have to be able to sit up. Which is, to me, common sense, but whatever. New 6 received the following statement from Universal regarding the changes. So they said, we are reinforcing ridership eligibility requirements at Stardust Racers and 4 other attractions. So basically, as of the reopening, this must happen, including Dragon Racers Rally, Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein's Experiment, Jurassic World Velocicoaster, and Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, also at Universal Studios Hollywood. Yum. Specifically, guests using mobility devices must be able to demonstrate the ability to walk unassisted by taking a few steps independently. Additionally, information can be found in the guides for safety and accessibility. Just to note, you can actually not board this ride. Like, I'm a bigger guy, and I think the Velociraptor ride when we went to Universal, it did click and turn green, but it was too tight, made me a little uncomfortable. So I didn't ride it, and I wasn't as I was a little smaller than I am now, so I probably couldn't get on the ride. And I know that the one that they just tore down, I could not get it to close. It was Universal is notorious for being for smaller, probably 200 pounds and less people, or 220 and less. If you're a big guy, you're not likely to be able to get on it. At the time, I was not that big. I was probably not as big as I am now, but I had lost some weight and I still could not get it. And it was fine because my family hated that ride. Rip ride roller coaster I was. Yeah, that's a terrible ride. Imagine riding that. The guy that ride that. Holy smokes. So Tim Hayden, who visited Epic Universe from Miami with his family on Saturday, said Rodriguez passing is a tragic event. It's not something you want to hear about anybody. I think everybody has to take precautions and understand the issues they may have. He said if they reopened it, I imagine they did their due diligence. If they think it's safe to reopen, we have to trust the system. So returning guest Paul Maher from Virginia told News 6 he wasn't going to ride Stardust Racers. I didn't get on it the first weeks ago. I'm not getting on it again, and the kids are not getting on it. We're a little nervous. Probably everything is okay. I don't think Universal will do anything unsafe. He said, it's a tough call. Turn away a lot of people who could ride it and have fun versus the off chance that something bad could happen. So again, the family's legal team, I'm not really going to get into this. It's a really bit of nonsense in my opinion, but it's the US. It happens a lot. So the attorneys Ben Crump and Natalie Jackson lambasted the plan to reopen Stardust Racers, quote from them, Stardust Racers is evidence in an active it's evidence in an active passing investigation. Reopening the ride before our experts can examine every component is unadulterated spoliation of evidence, a grave risk to public safety, and puts profits over people's lives. You got to look up this lawyer. He's a little bit has a history, and I won't go into that in case he's watching. And I don't think he can really get me. I'm in Canada, but I'd rather avoid saying anything disparaging. But you know what I'm saying. They like to chase the ambulances, let's just say that. Which is, again, why, in my opinion, this is a little bit odd, this whole thing. It is tragic. I don't think anybody should lose their life on a ride, but a little weird. So I'm not going to go into what he said. I think he's a little bit of a ambulance chaser, in my opinion. It is up to Universal whether or not they do decide to, it is their decision at the end of the day to do this and to reopen this ride and to take the risk that, something could happen again. But, with all these new warnings, what do you guys think? I mean, is it appropriate? Is that enough? I personally believe unless it's actually, a broken part, which has happened on the ride, and the warnings are not sufficient, right? Like the warnings they have now are pretty night and day, in my opinion. They're pretty adept at telling you shouldn't ride this if A, B, and C is happening in your life. So that puts the responsibility on you. Now that's not to say, like, if a bolt came off because of lack of due diligence and maintenance, that I wouldn't say that, they're negligent, they should be sued, they should pay and make reparations, for what has happened to whoever or whatever can happen to a person. But at the end of the day, we all take risk. Whenever you get on a small ride, a big ride, there's some risk involved, whether you drive a car, take a plane. Risk is part of life. And when you know that personally you have some of these conditions and you still decide, then you are basically putting your life in your hands, and the decision making is falling out of, the responsibility of Universal Studios. That's my opinion. I believe, and I think a lot of this generation doesn't, that, it's a 50-50 road. Now, negligence on them part from maintenance or a bad design that's flawed, that's different. But at the end of the day, you kind of know, like, I've rode Hagrid's. It was wild when I first rode it. It kind of scared me a little bit. I was gripping the bars real tight. My hands were like white knuckles because I'd never ridden it before. I didn't know what to expect. And it was pretty wild. You go up, you go down, you drop. But afterwards, I was like shaking a tiny bit, but I loved it and I wanted to go on it more and more and more because it was, once you know what's going to happen, you kind of like, the next time is better and the next time is better. But if I had like a pacemaker or a neck injury and I was wearing something, or a broken arm, I wouldn't even go on that ride. I wouldn't go on any roller coaster, no matter how subtle it seemed, because, I could aggravate my injury. Blood flow changes when you've got G-forces. It's just common sense. So what do you think, Ranting Nation? Is common sense not so common anymore? What do you think of this situation? Comment below. Let me know, fam, because I'm very interested. Anyways, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you watching. Just to address some things, there's been some shorts that have done pretty good, but there's a lot of comments on there. The problem with shorts is they don't really give you the full story of like this video, right? Like this whole thing that I've been talking about just gives you a little Cole's chunk, like a little chunk or almost out of context. Sometimes chapter, one word was wrong, and I had a big argument. These guys are arguing me about Xbox and stuff, and I'm like, wow, please like, share, subscribe so that you can see the whole video, not just the shorts. I know the shorts are the new thing nowadays. It draws a little of attention. I'm hoping to get some more subs. I appreciate the subs I have now. You guys rock. Anyways, this is Dave, Gen X Rants. Love ya. Take care. Peace.